Okay.
So Valerie and Noor, you can start the session.
So hi everyone, and welcome to this coaching session from the High Commission of Canada to Pakistan. I am Valerie Vachon. I am the second secretary here, and I'm also the vice counsel. And my main responsibilities are related to logistics, transport, and most importantly, to the HR section. I am here in the presence of my HR manager, Noorulain Ahmed, but she is a bit far because we have to respect social distancing.
Can we request everyone to please mute their mics, because that way we'll be able to.
On mute. Okay. So I'm going to say it again. The position we think that's going to interest you the most right now is a Foreign Policy and Diplomacy Service Officer, which is one of our highest level of position. So first of all, Noor has picked a cartoon, which basically I'll invite you to read for at least 1 minute, and then I can tell you what you can learn from that.
I actually found it very funny and relatable too.
Okay, so it's basically a person who goes into the interview and they ask him what his biggest mistake, and then he come up with something absolutely not relatable to a job interview, which is also a little bit odd, because if you're chewing pieces of your couch, that's not really what you want to tell your employer. So what we want to come into this is that there's a specific way to apply for positions for government jobs, and I believe it's mostly accurate for other diplomatic missions as well, and we want to help you go through the process in order to make your application stand out. So this is really the goal of this presentation. But first of all, why would you like to work for the government of Canada? What do we have that makes us better than other organizations? Well, we have lots of personal development training opportunities. We have regional trainings that you can attend either in New Delhi or London. We also have some training that are happening in Canada also to get specific expertise. So there are many options. In terms of promotion, not that many, because that's the highest position you can get at the High Commission of Canada. So, but your challenges are going to be exciting, and you're going to have the chance to get coaching and make colleagues around the world. So that's a pretty exciting network that we have here. We have over 175 missions around the world where a diplomat and locally engaged staff work hand in hand to represent Canada abroad. There's good working condition and employment. So we just recently got a salary raise, which was between 35% to 60% for all our staff. So they're very happy about that, but that means that we have a pretty competitive salary, and we also have a benefit package that includes like a medical, OPD, IPD, we have a dentist, and this is also something we want to have revised soon to have even a better package. There's workplace diversity. For us, it's very important. So it doesn't matter what is your background, from which region of Pakistan you come. If you're the best candidate, you're the person we want to work for us. Okay? There's also network and engagement opportunity with all the mission worldwide. Like one example is that Noorulain, she is in constant contact with Delhi. I just came back before COVID. I just came back from a training in London where I met like the whole regional network of HR. So there's many opportunities for you guys out there. There's also a Canadian business culture. I just wanted to touch that a little bit upon because that's something that is interesting. All the managerial position at the High Commission, they are Canadian diplomats. So that means that if you are the selected candidate for the senior foreign policy and diplomacy officer, you would be working for a counselor that is the political counselor for the High Commission. The culture between Pakistan and Canada is very dissimilar. So we have like a different style. Like Pakistan is a little bit more of a warm country where we tend to be a little bit, let's get down to business before the tea. But this is our value proposition that the government of Canada has. And I just wanted to tell you that this is something we value. So first is respect to democracy. So it doesn't matter which government is elected. As a diplomatic mission, we just go on about our business and perform the representation of Canada abroad, regardless of what is the political power in place. We value also respect for people, so workplace free of harassment, where people can find challenge, exciting opportunity, where they're treated as equal. We also value integrity in terms of our values and ethics. Stewardship means that we are entrusted with the government of Canada and the taxpayers' money and investment in us. So we need to be very sound in terms of the management of our money, expectation, activity, and then indeed we value excellence. Again, there's different types of what I find very interesting so far since I moved here is that the relationship between the management and employee in Canada is very small. So let's say I can just go in my manager's office and it's expected that if I don't agree on something, we'll be able to collegially argue and get our point forward, which I found that was very different in Pakistan, where you're supposed to say yes to your manager. And we also value that you can make mistakes as long as you're working very hard. We say in Canada that if you haven't made any mistake, it means that you haven't done anything. So that's something that we expect people to be new in the organization, try new things, come up with creative ideas and make a few mistakes along the way. That's all part of the business culture that we have at the High Commission. I don't know, Noor, if you have something. You're also a new hire, so you had to face the culture as well. So what's your experience?
Well, this is my 5th month working with the organization, and I find all the business cultures to be deeply embedded within here before working with the Canadian High Commission. I also work with the Department for International Development, the British High Commission, and the USAID mission in Pakistan. By far, I can completely agree with Valerie on the few of the business culture highlights that she has presented. You have a lot of room to experiment with new and innovative ideas. You get a lot of free hand, and basically in terms to network, it's not just limited to organizations and institutions within the country, but also, within various missions abroad. We work closely, for the HR project, this is our first national outreach program that we are implementing. We are in contact with various universities and think tanks to basically attract good human resource to apply for relevant positions within our organization.
Yes, and finally, everybody has only one manager, and who doesn't want to work for this guy? So far, everybody I meet tells me that they really love the Prime Minister of Canada, and he is our big boss. Obviously, we have a High Commissioner here who we report to, and then she reports to the ministers of foreign development and trade, and then that minister reports to the Prime Minister. So we don't see him often, but that's inspiring. So now to the more of the meat part of our presentation is that after we tell you why you should work for us and the business culture, we want to talk to you about the hiring process, and then we will open the floor for questions. So the hiring process might sound like a little bit of a maze now, and it's an art in itself to go through that process. That is also why we do that presentation, because we want to help you have your application stand out. So first of all, we do what we call a SOMC. It's called a Statement of Merit Criteria. When you go on our website, it's all there. So you can read the statement of merit criteria. It's basically telling you, okay, this is the job duty, this is the area of eligibility, these are the essential qualification, rated requirements. Then you can know a little bit about what kind of ability and competency we're looking for, what's required from the selection process, and finally on how to apply. So that's like a document that is 3 or 4 pages that is on our website that you should consult before you make your application. Then we make the posting on Amris, and then we reach out to various professional networks, and we also advertise in the journal, and then people can then submit their application, and there's a deadline. Then after that, the system called Amris, that some of you might have seen already, it's asking you a lot of questions like, do you speak English? Do you have a master in journalism or other field? It asks you a bunch of questions where you say yes or no. And then from there, the system grabs all those questions and makes a first assessment. This is what we call qualifying candidates. So the qualifying candidates, they're invited for a first round of assessment, which is either an assessment on their skill, like office skill and computer skill. And for LE9, so for senior position, we often invite them for a written assessment. Then this first assessment is graded in terms of like 100%, 20%, and the best candidates, they're invited for interview. After that, when there's the interview, again, the interviews are graded, and the result from the written assessment and the result from the interview together, they make like a final result, and it grades candidates from 1 to 10 or 1 to 5. And then from that point, the first top candidates gets the job, and the other candidates, if they passed all the exam, they are placed on an eligibility list, which means that if we have a similar position at the same level that gets an opening that year, or if we want to hire an emergency employee, we might contact you if you're on that eligibility list for a shorter contract or for a longer contract. It really depends. So once you're the selected candidate and you're like, yes, I'm going to work at the High Commission, it's not the end. We're going to call your reference just to make sure that everything in your application is accurate. And in the end, we're going to have the reliability status that is going to be performed. And then finally, we're going to give you the letter of offer, and then you're starting your new job at the High Commission of Canada. This hiring process is almost the same as what we do for Canadians. So we have made like very little change, and I just gone through hiring for the position I'm doing right now. I just did the hiring for it, and it's very, very similar. So now, to prepare your initial application, this is the most important things, okay? So the first thing you want to do is you want to look at the...
Thank you.
Can I mute people?
I think if we do that, probably we'll have to stop sharing it. So maybe you can ask the moderator.
Okay, please, people, if you're joining, mute your microphone unless you have a question. Otherwise, there's lots of background noise. Okay, so first step, after you read the SOMC and you're like, this job looks awesome, the first question you have to ask is, do I have the essential qualification for the job? And in that example, I'm just going to give you an example from the job post of the senior foreign policy and diplomacy officer, is that the candidate must have at least 5 years of experience conducting research and strategic analysis on policy and public affairs issue. So you're asking yourself, do I have that experience? Yes or no? And then you look at all the different options and you say, okay, I have this experience, I have this experience, I have this experience. And if you're meeting all the criteria, then good, you're eligible for the job. So that's the first step. Do you have the essential qualification? Then the second is you want to have that reflected in your CV. So if you have 5 years of experience conducting research and analysis, you need to make sure that in your CV, under the title of the several jobs that you have made, that you include something of that sort. Then is it also reflected in your letter of introduction? There's a specific way to apply for your letter of introduction, which usually takes every single mandatory qualification as a title, and then you just use all of them. So conducting research and strategic analysis on public affairs and issue, you make it a title, and then you write a little paragraph on how you meet that criteria, okay? And if you, and then after that, did you follow the proper format? So when you look in the SOMC, there is a format to present your letter of introduction. So your CV, I encourage you to be very creative, make it fun, make it representing your personality, but your letter of introduction, really follow the instruction, and that's going to help you a lot. So structure is going to help you. And then after that, if you fill the AMRIS form correctly. So the deadline is for this position, the 27th of September. So you still have until this Sunday to send your application. These are the pitfalls that I've seen so far when we do hiring. So sometimes people have a very, very good profile, but they're missing on these points and they get either eliminated or they get a lower score. So they end up not being selected. So English mistakes in your resume or letter of introduction are usually an indication when somebody is hiring that either you don't pay attention, you don't really care about the job, or your English is not good. So if you have to, have it revised by your mother, your brother, a teacher. Make sure that you're not the only person who looks at your application, to make sure that there's no mistake in the formatting, in the English, that everything is laid out, because this is your time to show us in terms of like, it's your time to shine, and it's valid for any job that you will ever apply in your life. I think that's very good to have it. Like my mom, she always revise all my job application, and I have at least one mentor who revise all my job application to make sure that everything is, you know, perfect. Then after that, there's lots of people that we can kind of see that they meet the mandatory criteria, but we need a little bit of meat on the bone. You need to really demonstrate on how you meet every single mandatory criteria, and it needs to be pretty plain and simple, especially because sometimes for some job we receive over 1,000 applications. So if we don't see it, it's very difficult to kind of assume things if they're not there. Okay, then there's also a follow proper format for the letter of introduction. We put these things there because we want to evaluate how people can follow instructions and how detail oriented they are. This is why we put a proper format of introduction, because this is what we evaluate from the get-go from the people. And then we have people who send their application too late. So 2-3 weeks later, I'll be like, oh, please, I also want to be in there, but we can't. As when the deadline is passed, the system doesn't accept application. And in the AMRIS system, we have what we call killer questions. So if you say no to one of those questions, that is the mandatory criteria, then your application is automatically rejected. So be very, very careful on how you answer the AMRIS questions. And if you qualify for all of them. Okay, I don't want to say put yes if it's a no, but if it's a yes and it's a weak yes, that you meet that criteria. Let's say you say we have another rated qualification that is called developing relationship with clients, stakeholder, and influencers. Let's say you have done it, but you haven't done it for 25 years of experience. It's, let's say, one of the weak competency. You can put yes and demonstrate it in your letter of offer. Okay, it doesn't need to be like 100%, but it needs to be very close to the 5 year of experience. So don't be shy. If you think you're qualifying, go for it. Okay, so the perfect letter of introduction for you is follow the instruction first of all. Second, demonstrate how you meet the criteria, and also if you can link it with a strong work example. We have another job where it says something like management of staff for 5 years, and I was talking with one of the employees and he said, well, how should I present that? I say, well, you start with something like, I have 5 years of experience, okay, managing employees in this organization, and this third organization. And through all those experience, I have a very good example where I was a very, very good manager, and this is the example. So if you say, okay, I meet the mandatory criteria, you give an example, that is giving you kind of like the maximum point on how you do it. Applying for jobs at the government is a little bit like doing a recipe. You don't need to be super fancy in terms of like explaining what you have to do, but you need to explain it with like always the same structure. I meet the mandatory criteria because, and I want to tell you about an example where I was particularly working on that type of criteria. Okay, then you want to use as much as possible what we call a SMART. It's a specific example that is measurable, that was achievable, relevant, and also time bound. So that's giving you pretty much all the points in there. And then the other thing that people do sometimes, you get carried away, you have a really good example, and then you reach the maximum word limit. So try as much as possible to keep within the limit. Again, it's just because we receive lots of applications. So we just want to have like a little overview of what it is that you have done. And then, yeah, again, ask your mom to review, ask your second cousin to review. Everybody who's really good in English can have and that you trust can have a look, because sometimes when you're working on an application for too long, you end up not seeing that there's a typo there, or there should be a point here, that type of thing. So always good practice. Then after you apply, you wait anxiously for a few few weeks, and then we contact you and you made it to the written assessment. So the next stage in the interview, in the hiring process, is the written assessment and the interview. So the first thing you need to look is that we cannot evaluate you on things that are not part of the statement merit criteria. So when you want to prepare for your written assessment, sometime we send you an email saying that there will be a question that is going to be related to this political situation of the last prime minister who was elected in Pakistan. So we tell you that there's going to be a question about this specific topic. And I'm not saying that this is going to be the case in that sense, but we usually want to know if you can do your research and be prepared for the exam. So we're going to throw something in the mix that forces you to, prepare a little bit. So you can study that, print a bunch of literature, and be ready, because there will be a question that needs to be prepared. Then after that, we're going to tell you on what you're going to be evaluated. So if I were you, I would read the SOMC carefully and see how you can prepare an advanced example for each of those knowledge and rated requirements. So you want to prepare a few examples, so this way you can pull it quickly in the interview or in the written assessment. Because if you did your letter of introduction, written assessment and interview, a big portion of it follows the same type of style. So we'll ask you some questions like, give us an example of a time when you had to develop relationship with clients, stakeholders, and influencer. And then you're like, but if you had your example ready, you can be like, oh, I did it in this job and this job, and one time I really saved the day by showing that I have great relationship skill and all that kind of thing. So if you want to prepare for that, is really look at the SOMC and prepare for those skills. Okay. Then after that, there's the computer skill. We might evaluate your skill in using, Office environment, Office 365, Excel, that kind of things. And finally, we evaluate a little bit on the language skills as well. So when you are at the interview, we are looking in the way you're speaking, in your body language. In the written assessment, we're looking in the way you write. And honestly, the best advice I was given when I was doing competition is that if you don't know what to do, structure might be able to save you. So if you write structured written paragraph where you do an introduction, you bring your points forward, and then after that you do a conclusion, at least it's going to give you points only, even if it's for the structure. So if you're a nervous person, I would say structure is going to help you up a lot. And I think that's it. Then there's then after the interview, usually we don't do another assessment. That's enough. People can breathe. And then if you're the selected candidates, we do the reference check, where we call 2 or 3 of your employer. We ask them a few questions, mostly related on competencies and values and ethics and that kind of things. So if you choose your references, I would say pick somebody that knows what you're doing in that job. Yeah. So The ambassador doesn't know, the High Commissioner, she doesn't know what I do on the day-to-day job, so I would not put her as my reference, but I would put my immediate manager and maybe a peer of the same level, somebody that knows in detail what it is that I'm doing on the day-to-day. So when we ask them specific question, they know how to reply. And I would say avoid as much as possible putting somebody that is related to you, like if it's a like third or fifth cousin, or if it's like a brother or sister. It happened in the past that people put their uncle and like very close family relationship. If you can avoid that, it's the best. Right? Yeah. And finally, there's a reliability check, which is basically you have to provide a police statement of character, and you have to fill a few forms that explains like where did you live, where did you work, and then the government of Canada conduct an assessment on the security level, and they do that for everybody. So I also have to do it, Noorulain have to do it, everyone. So it's nothing to be worried about, but it's a little bit of intense in terms of paper filling. So apart from that, I think we can open the question. That is basically to wrap up. There's many steps, but the first step is really to prepare your application and apply. And then after that, if you're meeting all the criteria, you'll be invited for a written assessment. And then the best candidate from the written assessment, they're invited for the interview. And finally, the person who gets the best overall score is the selected candidate. So that's how we hire at the High Commission of Canada. I think we can just stop sharing. Stop sharing the screen.
Yeah, we're back.
Voila. So we're ready for question. And I think there's already a few questions. You can ask directly. So any question?
Students, please ask if you have any. Yes, there is one question from Ms. Anam Aftab.
Yes.
You can ask your question directly, please.
Sure. Hi, thank you for your presentation. My question is, how long does it take for you guys to select the final candidate? Like, how long is the recruitment process? And secondly, do you guys consider candidates who are based out of Islamabad?
Yes. In the SOMC, there's a section called area of eligibility. So for these positions, which are the higher level position, we consider anybody who has a valid work permit for Pakistan. So if you're Pakistani, you can work here. So you'd be an eligible candidate. So it doesn't matter if you're in Karachi and northern area, even if you're outside of Pakistan, you can apply as long as you are allowed to work in Pakistan. So the government of Canada would not sponsor like a work permit. That's one thing. The other thing is that we prefer as much as possible to have the final interview with candidates, but sometimes we're flexible, especially now with COVID-19, we're trying to kind of like be a little bit more technological. So that could also be an opportunity. Yeah. But we don't pay for relocation as well. So that's something to consider if you're living very, very far. In terms of the length of the process, right now we're doing lots of hiring at the same time, so it might take a little bit longer, but I would say at least
3 to 4 months.
Yeah, I would say like 3 months, because the security clearance takes about 6 weeks to kick in, because it has to be evaluated by Ottawa. So the regular process is maybe 2 months, but then when you add another 6 weeks, it's like 3.5 months. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
Are there any other questions?
Or suggestions or feedbacks, we are open to everything.
It's the first time we give that presentation, so if we scared you or if you think we can improve some parts or you want to know,
feel free to let us know.
Yeah, exactly.
Valerie, I have a couple of questions with the prospective students that students might ask from us. First, let me introduce. I think that I'm Munawar. Actually, I have stopped my video because of the connectivity.
It's okay.
First question is this: what's the career progression on this position?
Career progression on this
Career
position.
progression. Okay. So for this position, okay, so how the way it works at the High Commission is that we have position from the number called LE1 to LE9. 9 is the highest level. And this position is an LE9 position. So we're looking for somebody who's more like a senior person. There's not a higher position after that. The good part is that if you work for the High Commission, we want to prepare you from the moment you start. We want to prepare you for the next step of your career. So there are bigger mission that has bigger position. I'm not talking about the Canadian High Commission. I'm talking about, let's say, the US, UK. They have higher level of positions just because they're bigger diplomatic mission. So the time you spend with us, you'll learn the job, you'll have many challenges, and depending on your level, you'll get given like bigger file or a more challenging file. So in terms of like excitement and like learning and development, you'll be well geared. But in terms of like advancement of like getting a promotion, all the other positions are hosted by they're held by Canadians. So there's not a higher position that can be held by locally engaged staff, unfortunately.
Okay. And is it a permanent or contractual position?
It's a permanent position. Indeterminate position.
With do you want to talk about the probation period? With a 1-year probation.
Yeah, well, when we hire people, there's a probation period, and after 1 year, you become a full permanent employee. But I mean, it's very rare that we do not abide by by that period. So I would say we're recruiting for a permanent position, and then the person do the probatory period, and then after that, they're fully permanent.
Okay. So there's another question. Actually, this question I have received from one alumni on my WhatsApp. The question is this: that could you please brief us about the team hierarchy of this officer? Like how many people would be working under him? Can you hear me?
Hierarchy of the PDS department.
Okay. So the Foreign Service and Diplomacy program, it's one section out of there's 8 sections at the High Commission. Okay.
Like you said that it's the top position of the Pakistan-based staff. So what's the hierarchy? Like how many people would be reporting him and how?
There's the High Commissioner, the Counselor, and then there's this Foreign Service and Diplomacy officer, and there's no staff reporting to them, but they work in groups of 7 or 8 people are working in that team. So it's a small but very quick team.
So we have 2 more locally engaged staff within this team, but they do not report directly to the LE9 position. They report directly to the counselor section, and they are at LE8 and LE5 level, which is the program assistant level. And then there is a social media part of the FPDS team, which is managed by an LE8. So it's a relatively smaller team, but a very cohesive and integrated team that is managed by the counselor, which is a Canadian-based staff.
And in addition, there's 2 Canadian staff that are working in that same team at the same level as the LE9.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from, again, actually many people are sending me questions on my WhatsApp also. I don't know why.
That's fine. We have.
So I think that this is alumni and he is questioning us from USA. And his question is that will the assessment and interviews be conducted online, especially during COVID?
Assessment
online.
COVID.
So we used to do all our assessments in person, but now we've changed that, especially because of COVID. We're starting to do all the exams online. So written assessment is definitely going to be online, and interview most likely, or at least there should be options to do it online as well.
Okay. So that's it from my side. Any other question, dear students, you want to ask? Yes. Rana Taqir Hassan on Facebook is asking that the experience of less than the stipulated number of experience years be considered.
Sorry, can you please repeat, Mr. Munawar?
It's a question from Facebook by Rana Taqir Hassan that can quality experience of less than the stipulated number of experience years be considered?
In less than 5 years, considered.
In that sense, it wouldn't. because it's an automated system. So we don't even, so the first sorting of the application, we're not even looking at it. It's being sorted externally. So if you don't show that you have those 5 years of experience, that would not pass you through the first sorting of application.
Well, one question that comes to my mind, why? Because when we see the students at LUMS, for example, if they have spent 4 years at LUMS, then during their services, they have done a lot of volunteer work and internships. Will you people consider volunteership and internships like one?
Yes,
There are.
yes. The answer is yes, we'll consider it. So let's say conducting research and strategic analysis on policy and public affairs issue. Let's say you have a master's degree from LUMS where you did a lot of research and strategic analysis. That would count because we're looking to see, can you deliver that service to us or not? So if you have a lot of experience and it includes like your internship and also some volunteering and also like from your experience in school, we would consider that. You just need to kind of like fiddle it well when you explain your why you're meeting the criteria, and we'll accept that.
Okay. One more question that we have a very rigorous program of MBA at LUMS, and especially MS and MBA programs are very rigorous at LUMS. And students conduct a lot of research and analysis in other fields other than political. Like they don't conduct their research and analysis in politics or in diplomacy or relevant field, but they conduct their research and analysis in business field or in other fields. So would you consider these experiences of other experiences of research in other fields?
It has to be specific to job.
Well, it really depends, because like there's that other experience that says 5 years of experience developing relationship with clients, stakeholder, and influencer. So it doesn't have to be necessarily related to policy and public affairs. You could have like lots of experience in the field of I don't know, consular, or in the field of trade. So it's not specific, but if it's specified like the first criteria, which is strategic analysis on policy and public affairs, like this one is specifically geared toward public affairs. But there's another criteria called providing strategic advice, briefing, and written reports on management and client. That's like a transversal competency. So that means that it doesn't really matter if you work in policy or if you had other experience with other field. If you're able to provide strategic briefing and written reports, we'll consider it as well.
But one thing I would like to add over here, Mr. Rana, is that, you know, the application needs to be a composite form of reflecting what truly is required in the rated qualification. So maybe one competency is being met over here, that in terms of research and development, the candidate from MBA or MBA or from the public policy has demonstrated the skills, but at the same time, they also have to meet the other competencies that are relevant to the FPDS job scope.
Understood. Thank you.
One question.
Yes.
I have a question regarding the format of cover letter. If you can give us some tips how to write a good cover letter and what points we should add, which will definitely add a lot of value in the cover letter for any candidate.
Okay. So when you look in the statement of merit criteria on our website, there's a section called how to apply. And then it says, follow this link. So you click on the link and there is a section that says cover letter. And it says the cover letter must follow this format. And then it explains you how to do it. So it says the title should be the mandatory criteria. So when you look at the mandatory criteria, it is, let's say, conducting research and strategic analysis on policy and public affairs issues. So that's going to be your title. Then after that, you write the equivalent of one paragraph, which is about 150 words, to describe how do you meet that criteria. So you must, when we're reading you, we must be like, wow, this candidate totally aced that criteria. They're getting it. So to get that feeling, you want to do something like, first, I meet this criteria. So you put it in there, like plainly, doesn't have to be fancy or anything. I meet this criteria because, and then you start. Then you say, I meet it because I work in this organization, or because I studied at LUMS for 5 year and I wrote a lot of report in that environment because I did this internship. So you want to put it this way, and then you want to add, and then you can put something like, and I want to share you a specific example of how I applied that to my job. And then they say, and then you just give an example that is specific to that job. So you start from the least specific to the more specific, but you really want to say, I meet that criteria of 5 year of experience doing X because I have experience here, here, and there, and I want to give you a specific example in addition to that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the perfect format.
Thank you so much.
Like you're baking a cake, okay? It's really, it seems not so hard, but if you have the list of things you need to put there, it's not very difficult.
Definitely.
I see that the Ali Tariq has his hand raised.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just wanted to know that you talked about some of the challenges which a person might face in this role. Can you elaborate a little bit more what kind of challenges is expected from this post?
You mean from the application or from the job?
No.
From the
In the job itself.
Okay. Well, the program manager probably knows more about it. I manage all the hiring for all the positions, but from what she told me when we spoke together is that the Pakistani politics like tissue is a very interesting and exciting way, and
Yeah.
the way we function is also we want to provide kind of a Canadian perspective on what is going on in Pakistan to report that to our headquarters. So the candidate who's going to get this job is going to, organize a lot of events, give strategic analysis and strategic recommendation to our HQ and like senior manager in HQ as well. And then they'll provide the support for the public affairs section. That person is also going to, strategize how we're going to do our social media with the social media advisor, and also maintain the network of local contacts. So that's like a little bit of everything, but also if the person has like specialization or a specific background that we can capitalize on, the program manager will make sure to integrate some of your interests and also use all your like strength in order to make you shine even more.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay,
Any other question?
Oh, you're cutting. I can't hear you.
Oh. Mr. Rana, if you can type the question.
Yes, I'm just asking. I'm asking participants that if they have any other question, they can ask directly. So I think that we don't have any other question. Should anyone has any question, please? They can ask. Actually, your session was much elaborative, and I think that people don't feel any need of the questions after this elaborative session.
The hardest part is really to go through the hiring process. Once you get the job, you'll see that we have lots of fun at the High Commission.
Yes.
It's an environment that is very fast-paced. It's pretty much Canadianized, but it also has that hybrid Pakistani culture, which I really enjoy. And then we're counting a lot on our locally engaged staff because we have a rotation every 2 years. The manager changes. So we're counting on the people who are from Pakistan to kind of like hold the rein and help us get into, so more than just, managing your job and doing your everyday business. When there's a new manager, you almost have to, take them by hand and tell them, okay, let me show you what Pakistan is all about. Okay, so you introduce them to the contact, you go to events together, you help them understand. And Pakistan doesn't have the best reputation in terms of posting. And honestly, all the Canadians that have been posted here have fell in love with the country, fell in love with the people and the food. So really, the Canadians who are posted here, they really like to work with Pakistani, and we hope that it's good, that it's the same way the other way around, that the Pakistani likes to work with us too. So so far, High Commission is a great job. I really like it, and I think Noor likes it too.
Oh, yes, I love not going anywhere anytime soon. As Valerie suggested, I would really encourage everyone to please apply for this job if they feel that they meet the essential requirements and the criteria. I would also use this platform to reach out to people who are listening to us outside Pakistan who holds valid Pakistani work permit. This is an indeterminate contract, which means that it's an open-ended employment opportunity. If you think that you or somebody in your family fulfills the criteria, please apply for this position. And if you follow the link, we can share this presentation with the administrator so you can have a detailed look into it. In the link, you will be able to see other job vacancies that are available at the High Commission. Today, we had this session which was focused over the FPDS diplomacy officer position, because the subjects that are required to apply for this position are the ones that are being offered at LUMS. However, in addition to this, if you have other interest, you can go through the list of other open vacancies that we have at our mission's website and apply for the position after going through the documents. Do we have any other questions? You can always reach out to your, sorry, go ahead.
No, there is one question. What
Yes.
if any candidate face any difficulty while submitting their application online? For example, is there any email address, for example, if you're applying for a certain position and you face any kind of internet issue, so they can send an email to the concerned person?
Yes, there it is. When you log on to Emirates, the software takes you and gives you to a disclaimer that basically says that this is the email address of our technical team who you need to contact in case there is difficulty submitting your application. And they're working 24/7. They will get back to you immediately with a remedy.
This is fair. Okay, students, do you have any question to ask? This is a great opportunity for you to apply and to ask questions directly.
I think that's it.
Yes, Valerie and Noor, thank you very much for sparing time and giving us such informative and elaborative session. I'm sure that our alumni will take benefit from this information and they will apply for this position if they are eligible for the position. And should you have any question from us, from my team, Career Services Office, you may ask us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Rana. We are looking forward for the candidates to apply, and thanks a lot for listening to us, and may the best candidate win.
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Have a good day. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you students for attending. Thank you for attending. Okay, ji. Allah Hafiz, everyone.
Allah Hafiz.